is the big idea for Nourish?
Yeah, big idea is just to make convenience healthy for you and the planet.
Is it?
Yep, that's as simple as that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So, so a few things about, I saw the product, and first thing I just want to say, like 22 grams is beyond insane. I know you're very into health and fitness and whatnot, but when you were making the product, right, either from your house, the factory, or wherever you started to like actually make it, what were some of the things that were going through your mind that you wanted to emulate in the product?
Well, first of all, the core thing that I was trying to solve is getting your protein needs on the go. And so high protein was really, really important to me. And second was not having any compromises. So what I mean by convenience, making convenience healthy, is that there shouldn't be anything, any sort of ingredient that you even have a doubt that is like, is that good for me in the long term, or is this going to have a negative impact on my health? So high quality ingredients, high protein, and then convenience was super important. So it really needed to be something that you can eat instantly with minimal preparation. And to me, even oatmeal wasn't enough, like it couldn't need microwave, it couldn't need refrigeration. It just really had to be the trifecta of high protein, so macros to fuel your fitness and health goals, long-term health for you and the planet, and then also convenience. So those were the three things as well. And of course, taste in addition, which is why it took me so long, I think, to develop it, because there were definitely some iterations that I was like, yuck.
Yeah. And why is that like so important for you? Like the inconvenience, make sure it's like healthy. Why is that like so important to you now?
Yeah. So first, in terms of the convenience aspect, I have lived a busy life all of my life. So in undergrad, working, as hard as I've come from a low income background. So in undergrad, it was like I was working really hard to get good grades, and then also working work study jobs to make ends meet. Many people, I think, have that experience. When I moved on to getting my PhD, it was, making sure to get all my deadlines in, to submit all of my papers, constantly working. Then when I was at McKinsey consulting, oh my gosh, like 80-hour work weeks, no time to do anything. So throughout that time, my health often suffered, or I had to make really tough decisions. Like, do I want to sleep an extra hour, or do I want to work out? Do I want to take 20 extra minutes to make a healthy meal, or do I want to finish this email that my boss is going to kill me if I don't finish? So convenience is super important. And in the perfect world, you wouldn't need to be highlighting convenience as much, because you would have time for all of the above. But that's just not the world we live in, sadly. And I do push for a slower world with more work-life balance, but until we get there, we need alternatives. So that's the convenience aspect. And then health, type 2 diabetes really runs in my family. So to me, having long-term metabolic and glycemic health, so meaning that your metabolism is healthy, your blood sugar doesn't spike, is really important on a personal level, because I've seen the suffering that can happen when you don't take care of that. So I needed to check the boxes of not only being high protein, but also not spiking your blood sugar, etc. As well. So yeah.
The whole industry is going to be coming at you, so we can't just explode the podcast. We have to keep going. And here, one thing I will say. So you mentioned the other company you work for, and we do our due diligence and we look them up and all that.
Yeah.
They're a pretty big company, right? So what made you want to stay away from that? I know you mentioned a little bit of work-life balance, but generally speaking, you're working for a good company, right? What made you want to say, I want to do Nourish?
Yeah, of course. So I actually went into McKinsey with this idea in mind. I joined in October, I believe, it was in October, and I actually had started doing pop-ups and everything of just the idea of Nourish around May.
Still working with them?
No, I'm not working with McKinsey anymore.
No. With you were doing the pop-ups when working with them, or credit?
Yeah. So I wasn't selling. I wasn't selling anything. I'm I'm not allowed to either. But I was just iterating, doing little taste testing in my kitchen, asking for feedback in little, I don't know, fitness studios and stuff. And because I truly came up with the idea when I was finishing my PhD, when I had COVID actually, and I just had like for once in my life 2 weeks to think and do nothing because I was too sick. So that really got me to think, what do I want out of my life? My family keeps getting sick. Like I'm obsessed with high quality nutrition, and I had to put that aside for my busy lifestyle. And so that really got the ball rolling in Nourish. And so it was never the idea to become a partner at McKinsey or anything. It was really just to get the business experience that I needed to be able to start my own thing. And actually, if you look at those companies, a lot of people do that. A lot of my colleagues that I started with are now doing really cool things. And McKinsey often acts like an incubator of sorts to give you the business knowledge, et cetera, that you may need. So, yeah.
Nice. And like right now that you launched officially and you're pretty much full steam ahead, what come of some of the things that you want to focus on now that maybe like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, you weren't really focusing?
Yeah, that's great. Well, now that people are trying the product, my number one thing is getting feedback. So I want to get feedback. I've already learned so many things. So just getting feedback from customers, from like wholesale buyers, from distributors, etc., on the packaging, whether I need to like slightly tweak the recipe, et cetera, et cetera. To me, number one thing is getting feedback to make a great product even greater. I think that's really, really important. That's the first thing. And then secondly is brand awareness. Nourish is a new brand, and I'm competing with brands with $1 billion of marketing, or like not billions of dollars of marketing, but $1 billion worth brands with a huge marketing budget. So I think being really creative about brand awareness, while understanding that the product is going to evolve over time is important.
Yeah, and right now that you're pretty much getting brand awareness, like what's kind of like the main focus? Like, are you doing like social media or organic? How are you trying to promote the product?
Yeah, so I think I do a two-prong approach. So one would be really focusing on organic social media. So I'm trying to post every day and seeing it like as a diary of sorts, making recipes, all that good stuff. I've also contacted influencers that I think are a really good fit for the brand, that share the vision of sustainability and health, and telling them about Nourish. So it's like the social media side. And then live, I try to do pop-ups around the Tampa Bay area or anytime I travel, as well. So really trying to get the two-prong approach of one, like social, which is, I was really hesitant to get on it because I am a millennial, and I went almost a year without Instagram, for example, before launching Nourish, because I'm like not a fan of what social media does on a personal level, but it's definitely been a growing experience. Like, okay, on the benefits, this is free advertising, so just get over it, Arianna. So that side, and then on more of the in the grounds, like doing pop-ups around the Tampa Bay area, and like whenever I get opportunity to travel for it, really demoing the product live, because there's definitely something there about trying a product from a founder and in person.
Got it. So right now, like, are you talking to other CPG founders? Are you trying to like get advice? Because I know obviously you're like the business wizard and you've worked at a consulting firm and all that, but obviously like I think you would want to get more advice from like CPG founders, other people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are so many amazing organizations that I've become a member of, that I've been able to learn from, like Startup CPG, Included CPG, Project Potluck. There's so many of them that I've been able to meet incredible CPG founders from, and I make it a point to talk to them, not only for advice, but just for like community. It's a lonely world as a solo founder, so being able to have these friends has been absolutely core to my mental health, I think, as well.
Really nice. They're gonna be watching this like, she shouted us out.
Yeah, exactly.
So as far as growing the business, right? I mean, I know you're doing all that, organic and then going to the pop-ups, but when you want to start, like, I guess, like promote it and scaling the company, what are some of the things that you want to make sure you keep fundamentally core at the product, and then just as a culture as a whole? You know what I mean? Because I know some brands, when they start, getting bigger and they start scaling, a lot of the times the ingredients aren't what they used to be. They were like the best product and they have to like sell out. For you, like, what are some of the things you want to keep core?
Yeah, well, exactly to what you said. I think number one thing is the ingredients is super, super important to me. So I really don't want anything that I wouldn't eat on the daily basis to ever be in Nourish. And that's absolutely core to me, because I created this product for a need that I had. And so anytime that doesn't happen, then I know that I failed. I think so. Ingredients number one, and two, it's the mission of sustainability and really having caring about sustainability as well. So we use upcycled chia, for example. That's a core part of Nourish, and meaning that the chia powder that we get is actually leftovers from cold pressed chia oil. So just being really mindful about the sustainability issues, and we're not perfect by any means. And I actually think we have so much to grow in sustainability. So I think keeping me grounded and with the core values that, environmental awareness is really important to me, and I want to make sure that's reflected in the product. And I don't want to be I want to be constantly reflective of that, constantly being pushed to be better in that. And that's like a North Star for me, that to really have a positive impact on people and the planet's long-term health.
Yeah. And right now, as far as, because you already started, I think one thing from what I've spoken to a lot of CPG founders, a lot of them are like, I want to get to the next level and the next level, but sometimes they got to look back, what you were saying, and then you say, well, I already launched a CPG brand in your case, right? So for people that may have not already launched a CPG brand, or they want to start one, or whatever the case, maybe they're just looking a little idea. Really, like, what are some of the things that you would maybe give advice to as somebody that already launched?
Yeah, I would say do your research. So like really get feedback and iterate the product as soon as possible. Like if you're planning on doing a protein bar and you have like these 5 ingredients in mind, you know what, make it in your kitchen, try to go, show it off at the farmer's market, see what feedback you get. Because I think that's just so important to have the ground, boots in the ground feedback from others. That's the number one thing. I think the most I've learned from people is just getting live feedback from them and thinking about the product in really cool ways and everything. So being there with your customer, and also because it's interesting, you might think you're solving one problem and the customer will actually tell you, well, actually, this is how I've used your product. And it's like really cool and insightful, but you wouldn't know that if you weren't getting live feedback. I think that's the one thing. And then the second thing is really be frugal, I think, because it's definitely an expensive industry and it doesn't look as expensive when you, I think, first get into it, but costs add up. And so being frugal and being really self-controlled in terms of where you spend money at the beginning, I think can take you far. I think bootstrapping used to be sort of like this embarrassing thing back in the day, but now more and more people are impressed by it. And even investors, I think, really look for a company that was able to bootstrap it for X percentage of the first few years at first. And so, yeah, being able to do that is really important.
Got it. And the other side, right? Like, what do you feel one of the things looking back on, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've made many mistakes, but I do kind of think everything happens for a reason. So, you just got to learn from your mistakes. But, I would say, and somebody did tell me this and I didn't listen to them, but it was, don't print too much packaging at the beginning. This is like very niche to CPG because you can save a lot of money if you like print in bulk, but your first round, you're going to get feedback on your packaging and then you're going to want to change it. So like, I already got so much amazing feedback on my packaging that I'm going to be completely changing the next one. But now I have like thousands of leftover packaging. And so I'm dealing with the strategic decision of like, man, should I just keep it for another one? But I have so much amazing feedback for the next round. So just be frugal, even in that sense,
Yeah. So right now, as far as like current visions go, like 2 years, yeah, that's good. 2 years from now, right? Nourish is like a multi-billion, or maybe not multi-billion, but multi-million-dollar company, right? Who knows, maybe a billion. What are some of the things you want to like have happen along the way? Like, do you eventually want to, I don't know, maybe sell out? Do you want to like have more people? Do you want to be just solopreneur, you and your, I'm guessing your husband or friends, family, or do you want to like grow it to like a little big team and more people?
Yeah, so that was a couple of different questions. But I guess the first one, in terms of the vision, I really want this to be, I think, a multinational company, meaning that I don't want it just to really solve the making convenience healthy for the US, but for other regions. And that's really important to me, both just from a practical standpoint, because it's necessary, but because it's who I am. So I'm Peruvian, like, we live in the US. My husband's German. We travel a ton, and I've seen that this need is really across the globe. And so really critical to me is to really address multiple markets as well. And I think it's a little bit of a unique approach to do that earlier on rather than later. But that's important to me, and that's what I really see the vision. It's not only being in the US, but also in Europe, and spreading out. And it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see like the different cultural differences across that as well. And then in terms of team, I think it's important to keep teams lean, but of course, as you expand, you naturally need more people. So I wouldn't ever see myself being a company with hundreds and hundreds of employees, I think. But I studied organizational behavior in my PhD, so I'm like passionate about people. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to start my own company is I'm super passionate about the product, but I also am super passionate about people and an organization, building it from the ground up and instilling the values that I'm passionate about seems really cool. So yeah.
And being in that position, right? Having, the company grow to that international level and having people under your belt, like how would that make you feel? Like being in that position.
To be able to do that, or in the future?
In the future, like once you're actually in that position, like how would that make you feel?
That would make me feel great, because then I think I've achieved, my goals of really promoting, making convenience healthy for people across the globe. And I'm definitely a very mission-driven person. So I would be really, really happy to know that I'm making healthy choices a little bit easier for people around.
Yeah, I say you gotta promise me one thing. Once you're at that level, you're not gonna like go into like red dye 40 and all that crap.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's not even a question. I mean, it's funny because one of I have two flavors. One of them is chocolate bliss, and the other one is almond spice lucuma. And like they said, when I was developing, I did get some suggestions like, "Oh, do you want to add some orange dye to make it more in the lucuma flavors?" Absolutely not. I'd rather it be, pale in the color of oatmeal, because that's just completely not what I stand for. So.
And as far real quick, just like as far as other flavors, like what do you plan to do? You just want to stick with those two in the beginning? Do you want to add more flavors?
We're definitely going to add another flavor, and yeah, we have a couple of other flavors in the line, a couple of other SKUs of different products in development. But we're actually, exactly to your point about feedback, that's what I'm focusing on this half year, is just getting feedback and doing. If you're signed up on my newsletter, you'll see that coming out soon will be a survey asking for different flavor options. And that's actually what I do in my free time, is I literally have all the ingredients I need, and they'll just like test things around in my test kitchen. So
yeah. In the kitchen, just cooking things up.
Exactly.
Cool. And then as far as like kind of just giving more feedback to like the audience and people in the CPG space, it's for people that are maybe like I don't know if you want to get investors or anything like that, but for people that are already a little established and all that sort of stuff, if they're watching this, right, and they're saying like, oh, who's this, who's Arianna? What do you want to say to them? Like, what do you want to make your, I don't want to say mission statement because that's boring, but like, what would be your like, I'm here, like, you better watch me. You know what I mean? Like, what would be like that thing you want to say to them?
But not a mission statement, but okay.
Like,
well, I guess I would say that my idea here is that we really do not need to make compromises between our health, convenience, and sustainability. And that right now, it kind of feels like that. But my number one goal is that we should be able to just grab food that truly deeply nourishes us and truly deeply satisfies our long-term needs. So for long-term health and short-term needs. So, getting your protein in if you're active, et cetera, and that shouldn't be a compromise. And a lot of the products that you see are a compromise. And so that I'm really focused on starting a brand that ends that compromise. And I actually invite others to follow me along as well.
Awesome. You're too nice. I was expecting like I'm gonna beat you guys or something crazy. I respect that. I respect
No,
that.
to me, the more people that do this, the more brands that do this, the better, because it's just about being mission driven and helping people be healthier. So if we can create a movement around this, and if every brand wants to join me, I'm happier. So
There you go. You're gonna be the leading founder.
hopefully.
Cool. And just to wrap everything up, if you could leave the audience, whether they're startup CPG founder or maybe somebody that wants to start, a company or a brand, what would you leave them with? Like one piece of advice.
Actually, I have a bracelet that says fail faster, and it's just embracing the mindset that you're going to make mistakes, and the faster you can make them and the quicker that you can get up for them, the better.
Perfect. Arianna, listen, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for having the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for the opportunity.